Hi, it's Beth Million, and you're listening to deuxsol Radio.
Peace, peace. Hey, what's up, y'all? It's Ariam
and Yodit.
And you're tuned in to deuxsol Radio.
That's right, your favorite twins are back talking all things music and culture.
Because two takes are better than one, but twin takes are even better.
And we are back with another episode. We have a very, very special guest in the building.
That's right.
We have singer, songwriter, and actress Beth Million in the building.
Woo! Period. Thank you.
Welcome back.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yes.
We are so excited to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm such a big fan of you guys. So this just feels like an early, Ethiopian Fasika.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's giving Fasika.
No, it really is.
Just a little pre-celebration.
Oh my gosh, the aunties are going to love this.
Yes, they're going to love this. This is for you guys.
Yeah, it was all intentional. This is exactly why we did this.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
She recently dropped her soulful EP, Cycles, which you can hear on Apple Music and Spotify. And you can catch her starring in the horror film, Sick, available to stream on Peacock. I cannot believe you did a horror film. That is like probably the scariest thing ever. I get scared watching them, so I can't even imagine you starring in a horror film.
So does the majority of my family. So even when I'm sitting next to them, my mom was like, "What?" I was like, "Mom, I'm literally right here."
Best mom.
Like literally.
They'd be like,
"No,
it's the."
He's like, wait. I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, that's universal.
That's when you know you did your job right.
Yeah, you did.
That's the point.
And you're probably like, yes.
Yeah.
You evoked the appropriate response.
Absolutely.
The appropriate emotions.
But we're so excited to have you join us on the show. And we are really excited to learn more about you. We've been following you on social media for a while. We've connected that way. Mm-hmm. But to be able to connect in person is super exciting for us. Yeah. And we just want to basically start from the beginning. How did you grow up? Who were you as a child?
Oh my gosh. Anybody who knows me as a child is going to be like... But I was a very eccentric little girl. I feel like I was an entertainer at heart, but I was also a Pisces. So I feel like...
Do you know where you are?
Like this is...
You are home.
The Pisces
you
safe
are home.
haven.
This is a Pisces safe space.
Okay, this is a safe space. Thank God.
Yes.
Thank God.
Welcome home.
Thank you. That actually means a lot. But yeah, no, I was somebody who kind of loved to make people feel things, whether it was like in a good way and make people laugh, if I was like doing impressions for my family or if I was out with my friends or whatever. So I feel like I always had a lot of energy and a lot of love and energy to give just in general. But really interesting. I actually grew up abroad. So I was born in Atlanta, but when I was 2 years old, I moved to Geneva, Switzerland.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, in Europe, which is crazy. We lived in Mozambique, also in Africa, for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
My mom works for the UN, so we moved around a lot.
Nice.
But by 7 or 8 years old, I had moved back to Switzerland, and I pretty much grew up there my whole life until I was 18, and then I moved to New York. So I feel like the times that I would come back to the U.S. for summers and stuff, because a lot of our extended family was here, is when I'd really consume that American culture. And look, I was convinced Anne McClain took my track on Disney Channel.
I'm crying.
I saw Ant Farm and I was like, Mom, how dare you give me an incredible education in Switzerland when Disney Channel is waiting for me.
Listen,
you know what I mean?
listen.
So as soon as I was 18, I really knew what I wanted to do and moved to New York,
so right at 18, boom, you just made the leap.
Yeah, I said, I'm ready to go. And here I am now, 8 years later.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That was... First of all, let's unpack all that.
Let's.
You have grown up in several places and you have roots in different areas.
Yes.
Which is so dope. I didn't even know all of that. And I love that it's somehow your dreams and your passions still followed you wherever you were. Could you explain a little bit more about how your upbringing inspired your creativity or your artistry?
I feel like my mom was somebody that always... really listened to me and my sister as kids. She's somebody that we were all very close, me and my older sister and my mom and even my extended family and my dad and stuff. There are people who really, even as children, gave us a lot of opportunities to express ourselves and like say our opinions and stuff. And so growing up from a young age, having that freedom, I feel like allowed me to really start hearing my own voice and my own opinions on things. And I was able to feel safe sharing them. And so as I got older and I, you know, started to take the arts more seriously, I realized that it was something that like my, like expressing myself was a virtue that my mom had kind of fostered from a young age. And so as I got older and the ways that I thought about things changed, I feel like I was desperate for a vehicle to be able to express myself and get these ideas out of my head. And I always say that like my art is kind of like evidence that I've existed in a certain way. And I feel like, yeah.
Wait. I love that.
Can you say that again?
Yeah, evidence that I have existed. Like that is how I see art, or the art that I put out into the world. And I think it's just because, you know, having been told, like knowing a lot or being raised with a strong emphasis on culture and, you know, generations, and being very close with my grandparents and like knowing what ancestry is to me, I feel like in some way I was like, well, if I'm doing the arts, this is my way of creating an imprint and a reminder for myself, or like almost like pebbles and stones along the path for me to be able to realize that I am staying true to myself and see that evolution like from a third person's perspective, you know?
Wow.
Come on.
You have us speechless. No, that's really powerful and really beautiful. I feel like that's such a nice way to look back and say, like, all of these elements have formed who you are and have formed your creative voice. And it's really special when you hear it framed out that way, because we never know what inspires anyone, especially when it comes to art.
Nowadays, like being able, like having so much access to content, it's so easy to see art as product, you know what I mean? You see it as product before you even create the product, and I feel like that's a very difficult place to create from, and I found it very hard to be able to do that. So sometimes it takes living life in a certain way to be able to know what you want to say. Otherwise you will be like kind of stuck in this paradox of choice and have like this like just like mental blocks in your own creativity, because it's coming from this too far, like it's not grounded in you, you know, it's grounded on what it is that you think that other people want to hear, you know?
Yeah, that's real. But I also love that you said that you had a lot of support to pursue a creative future and be involved in the arts, because not a lot of people have that opportunity. You know, some people pursue arts to escape things that they've experienced in their lives. And I'm just glad to hear that you were in such a healthy, supportive family. And I think it just gives you that extra drive and push to pursue what you really want.
Especially coming from an immigrant family.
Hello.
You know? Like that's something that I feel like in a lot of ways my mom had to battle for me, so then I wouldn't hear it. Like even if they're and it comes from a place of like safety, of like, you know, like your family or whatever wanting the best for you, and them not being familiar with this space. So for me to find that bravery within myself to continue to do it and prove to them that it's actually like it's actually feasible, I feel like, to be able to see other Ethiopian kids or other like immigrant kids being able to be like, oh, you know, I showed my mom that you were doing this, and now they can take it more seriously. That means a lot to me.
Oh my God, absolutely. Seeing what you're doing, you know, seeing someone that looks like us, you know, on the screen, like, representation matters, but I feel like this is such a niche experience for us because we're Abisha, because we're Ethiopian, and to see like, that's like a cousin, that's like a friend, you know? And I feel it just really warms my heart when I see the things that you're doing. And it happens to be because you've had that support, you know, and your family was, you know, fearless in allowing you to do this.
And I feel the same way about you guys. And that's why when I found your podcast, I was like, tap in immediately. So
That means a
Love you.
lot.
Yeah.
That means a lot. We out here,
No,
loud and
really.
proud, and yeah,
Don't
we're not-
sleep on the East African girls.
Yes.
You're gonna regret it.
Right. We're not going
She
nowhere.
didn't say no lie.
Yes.
Where's the lie?
Lies where? Lies where? But yes, so thrilled to hear all of that. When we're thinking about you as an artist, you cannot be contained. We mentioned this earlier. You are a singer, songwriter, producer, but then you're also an actress. So I'd love to hear a little bit more about how you honed in all of these crafts and which of these loves came first to you.
That's really interesting. I actually, so before acting and before musical theater was really like where my background was in, because in Switzerland there weren't a lot of arts programs or performing arts programs, but there was this one like British like theater company, and they used to put on a lot of like productions and things like that in English. So I joined that as like an after school thing, and I just fell in love with the how I felt about myself on stage. And I started, and what I love about musical theater is I got to train in acting, singing, and dancing. And I always thought that musical theater somehow would be the safest option, because there's a track. There's a specific track. You go to NYU, you know, you are the best in that class, and then you go, and then you're on Broadway, and then you have a stable job. It's the same, a 9 to 5 in its own kind of ways. You know what I mean? But when I came to New York, and I started studying it, I mean, I love it so much as its own like medium of art. But I think what I love the most is that I got to train in these 3 different mediums of art that I could use in whatever combination.
Okay.
And
It's like simultaneous.
exactly. And like as an artist, like for the rest of my artistic career, I can use them in whatever combination: dance, music, like acting, music, you know. And yeah, but then I feel like what was missing for me from the program was that, as you said, like our experiences and my specific experience is very nuanced. So I found it there was not the space, or musical theater writing was not progressing at the same pace as I was ready to be seen. And there wasn't a box that I could really fit into. So I found myself kind of getting lost in the background a little bit and having these skills. And I just really, I think before I could beg for people to give me a space at the table, I had to know what it is that I really had to offer, and what it is that I like, my own story, and what those stories looked like. So I was really curious about like understanding my own story, or what I had to say. And that's when I studied abroad in London. I did like an academic semester.
Nice.
And I was like, you know what, like maybe
when you were in college?
Yeah, this is when I was in college. After 2 years of the musical theater program, I was like, you know, maybe this is not for me, because I literally, until sick, I had never gotten like a main role ever in my life.
Wow.
Ever. And
So when did you start booking roles? So if you studied abroad, and then when did you start going out for auditions?
so only when I graduated, and I graduated in the pandemic in
Ooh,
March,
child.
like in 2020.
Wow.
So I did not have it easy. But when I studied abroad is when I was like, I don't have any sort of creative outlet. So I was like, let me try to like do like an open mic here in London. Like people don't really know me. Like let me try like to do like a song or something. So I did an open mic. There's this video on my Facebook of like my first song, Dirty Little Secret. But it's like almost like, it feels like an alt indie song almost.
Okay.
And I did it at this like open mic in London. And you could just tell like on my face that it was like, I started out very nervous. And then there's just this like, I just felt so free and liberated. And I was like, oh, there's something here. Maybe music is actually something I want to do. And so when I came back to New York, I started doing them simultaneously. Instead of musical theater, I went to the acting for film program.
Okay.
And then when I graduated in 2020, everything like shut down. It literally shut down on my birthday.
Oh, yes.
Oh, right.
That makes
because
sense.
we talked about that too,
Yes.
like around our birthday, because we're all Pisces
And
in
you know,
March.
one thing about Pisces, we love our birthday.
And that's when we really didn't know the gravity of what it was.
Like literally.
we truly did not know.
But hey, we're here now. We got through that. But yeah, pretty much virtually, I was.
So it was a very transformative moment
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
What does Beth look for in a role that draws you to it?
So the way that like a lot of the self-tapes come is they come from your reps. So they're constantly pitching you. And then when the casting person on the other end is like sees the resume, sees the headshot, sees the work, and they're like, this person could be good for this role, then they'll send me the self-tape. Okay. I'm a true believer in like just do everything and then see what sticks, because there is just such a competitive program. But I will say that like I can tell the difference in if there is a role that I'm like, this feels so aligned with who I am. But I feel like what draws me and makes it so much easier for me to access a lot of these characters is when there's nuance built into the characters. And that is something that I love about film and television, in a way that like in musical theater you have to be so large, like those nuances have to be so large, and there's a lot of like it's just harder to be able to portray that. So I feel like whenever I get any sort of roles, firstly, as soon as I see East African, and that doesn't happen often immediately, but I'm like, that's mine. That was like when I got the Flatbush audition, I was like, that's me. Arsema?
Yes.
Are y'all playing?
I definitely wanted to
it's in
talk
the
to
name.
you about that, because I feel like it's very rare that we see a role specifically for an East African and specifically for an Ethiopian. And I wanted to know what that process was like, playing someone that was just so close to your identity.
It was honestly really fulfilling to me in a lot of ways, and also for it to be within the genre of comedy, I feel like was really nice. And I'm like, look, there's a lot of heavy hitters in Flatbush. Like, they're funny. Like, these comedy people, they're on one. And like, look, I got some jokes, but I'm not like a comedy girl like that.
Right,
so I was like, I feel like there was a certain part of me that was really nervous. I'm like, how am I supposed to be funny? And I was like, really, at the end of the day, a lot of the improv or whatever ended up staying in the final cut of a lot of these, and being able to have the freedom on something like a comedy to be able to fill in those blanks with whatever experiences I had as an East African woman, you know, living in New York, trying to be an artist.
Right. I mean, literally, this is crafted for you. I mean, this is your story.
Yeah. So I feel like a lot of the comedy or like nuance was filled in from the fact that I was given the freedom to be able to do that on set.
Absolutely.
Which is really awesome and really fun to be able to see all different like perspectives of blackness like coexist in the way that like New York kind of fosters.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's really awesome.
And I love that you got to explore your comedic side. And I'm glad you got to be you. Because I feel like, to your point, a lot of the most iconic comedy scenes in film and television end up being improvised.
I know.
Because they just pull from something so natural and organic.
Yeah.
And then when you're watching a scene, you're like, wow, that felt real.
Yeah, and that's why like I feel like creating or fostering that safety on set to be able to take risks is so important.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, you know, being on a set that was so diverse allowed me to access that so much easier. But 100%.
Well, I'm glad you felt safe and empowered to do that. That's all that matters. And I feel like that comes through the screen.
Yeah. I'm sad that it got taken off though. Showtime. Like, why did
we gotta do better?
Like,
we gotta do better, Showtime. We can't have you on and not talk about your run on the Sex and the City sequel series. And just like that, wow.
Thank you.
Like, can we just have a moment? Like, how does it feel to be a part of such an iconic television series?
It feels insane now that it's done, or like now that I've like filmed the episodes and also been in both seasons. You know, I feel like when I first got it, and I didn't know that I was auditioning for it, because a lot of those bigger projects, like, it's kind of like hidden. The name is kind of hidden when you audition for it.
Really?
So when my agents were like, oh, also I think this is Sex and the City, and I was like, I'm sorry, come again? Say that again? Like, what?
Like, I'm sorry, what did you say?
Like, I'm sorry, I'm tripping. But yeah, no, honestly, it feels incredible to be able to even represent a version of myself in that world, in a world that I could have never imagined somebody who looks like me existing in. You know, they felt like so separate, even though in a lot of ways, like the subjects that are touched in the story are such like a general like female experience in a lot of ways, but to be able to, you know, be one of those faces and somebody that people can relate to is incredible. And I mean, those women are so powerful. They're so iconic. I feel like it felt like being a student all over again in a lot of ways.
Wow.
And you know, they're so seasoned in this industry, and they carry themselves with so much poise, and they're so friendly, and I mean, that show runs like a machine. You know, it is an well-oiled machine, but I do feel like the women on that show, and like honestly all of the actors, like they carry themselves with such poise and respect to everybody on set in a way that like I feel like I learned a lot about the type of artist that I want to be for the rest of my career.
Wow. I mean, that's amazing. Like you said it yourself. Sex and the City is an institution in its own
really
right.
is,
I mean,
yeah.
its impact and imprint on culture is unmatched, and I love that you became a part of this evolution of the series.
Even in like a very small part,
role, but
you know.
like when we were watching it, because you know we were Sex and the City girls,
Okay.
and we were watching, I was like, is that like literally? It just, like Ariam said, just made us feel so proud to see you on, and I loved the energy of this reboot series.
Yeah, and all these new characters are really widening things up and giving new perspectives. And even just you and your presence makes a huge difference.
Yeah.
It truly does.
That really means a lot.
Yeah. Hopefully we'll be seeing you in the next season.
Let's hope. Let me know, guys.
Yes.
We'll be tuned in.
I know, fingers crossed.
Yeah. But you said something that really stood out to me about your time there. You said that you were able to just witness these women at work. I wanted to know what's something that you took away from that experience that you take with you as you grow in your acting craft.
Preserve your energy is what I learned. It's like when you're on set, I feel like it feels like almost like hanging out in the green room, you know, but there's so many things going on. So like really protect the energy that you need to be able to give the performance that you are going to give. You know what I mean? And there's a way to be like open and kind to everyone and professional, whilst also like being firm with the boundaries that you need in order to do your best work. And I feel like I feel like I'm a very open person, and I almost to a fault where I'm like a people pleaser, and I don't want anybody to feel like I'm ignoring them, or you know, so I do too much in a way that sometimes gets sidetracked from the actual work or the best work that I can give. And so being able to put those boundaries up in like a safe way, in a respectful way, I just think is something that I really try to take to heart and try to practice in my own field. Yeah.
Wow.
Because Yodit and I talk about this a lot when it comes to actors, right? Like, what is the process for you to get to that place, whether it's an emotional scene, a comedic scene, a dramatic scene as an individual, but then when you have like a scene partner, how do you get to that place?
And you have a camera that's like this close to you, because I feel like in theater there's a momentum. Once the show starts, there's a momentum and it keeps going, and you can like build off of that. In a lot of like film is like a very stop and start kind of process. So you have to be able to go back there, and you have to know how far you can stray and be in the in-between in the setups to be able to still give that same energy of performance. And like that's something like for something like Sick, where it's like so high intensity.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it over the course of a month filming it, like you have to be there by the time the camera starts, and then you'll have 30 minutes different setup, but you have to be right back there. So it's definitely like like an exercise in its own right of focus
and then multiple takes.
Yes, multiple takes.
So when you're doing like Sick as a horror film, and you have to, you know, get to those like very emotional states, or you know, scared, you know, experiencing fear and anxiety or whatever the character is feeling. How do you keep going back and back to it? I mean, I'm sure it could be very emotionally draining.
100%. And I do think that people, like a lot of the crew members and the closeness, the close relationships that you grow, for example, like that I had with like the hair department, the makeup department, even like our own director and stuff like that, and the producer, like those relationships end up feeling like family in a lot of ways, and they end up being like an emotional support to be able to help you get to those places. And I do think that those relationships are so vital in being able to like feel safe enough to be able to keep going into those spaces and know that there is a place that you can decompress with these people. So I do think that those relationships are really important. But Sick was interesting because it all happens technically in one night. We shot almost probably 95% of the project during night shoots. So night shoots means we sleep during the day, and then from like 6 p.m. we get picked up, and then we're shooting all night until like 7, 8.
Right, so you can like
or the next
take advantage of the
evening,
the sunset,
exactly, or the actual
nighttime, right?
Which is crazy, and like your body is kind of out of sorts in a way. But I do think that like it has more so like a physical effect on you, because when you are like, you know, panting like that in a thriller, like your body goes into fight or flight because you know, from the breathing work that you're doing. So it's really important for you to find a cool down just as much as it's important to be able to find like a warm up to get to that place.
I think it's really important what you said about creating that space to like come down from it
and relying on your community, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, everybody is a part of this cog in order to get the movie done, but each person on that set, every crew member is like a full human being, you know, and these real relationships that you have oftentimes become like your set family, you know, in a way that like those relationships are vital.
So I am scary. Like I'm scared all the time. Like I can't get through horror films because I feel like it looks so real, and my heart as a viewer can't even take it. But as an actor, like, you know, it's a film. I know you're acting afraid, but like, are you actually afraid?
I feel like most of the time, no, because there's so many like breaks in between. But I will say that when the camera is on, I am actually scared, and that's props to the actual like actors that are playing like the other people. Like Mark Manchaco was so scary. Like there's this one scene, like spoiler or whatever, where he like, I'm like playing dead or something, and he like comes really close to my face, and I just remember, like, my eyes are technically like closed or whatever, but like I just remember like your whole body thinks you're in that state, and like the acting is so good that like in those moments, like it does like get a little bit scary, but most of the time there isn't, because there are so many breaks,
like stop and go, right?
But I also wanted to say one thing about Sick, because I forgot to talk about it in any of the press runs that we did. I got my song Layers in it.
Really?
Wow. And that was my first project ever.
My God.
Wait, that's so cool. How did that happen?
I literally I was talking to the producer, and I was like, you know what? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Right.
I was like, and this is after we'd been filming for a little bit. You know, I had built my own reputation in terms of like taking my own work seriously. And I was like, hey, I know that you guys are still figuring out the music stuff. Like, I make music, and like, I feel like maybe for like a certain part, like if you just want to look at a couple of these songs, if you're looking at them, I would love for you to be able to check them out. And he was like, oh yeah, I'm not sure, we have some things, but like just send them to me and we'll see. And I was like, okay, worth it for me. So then I sent it, and then literally a year later I got a message being like, oh, we want to use your song. And I was like,
wow,
yes,
wow,
that is crazy. As my first project, my first lead, I feel like for me was just like so huge.
That is.
Wait, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Congrats. Like, that's huge.
So much.
See, lesson for the people, definitely shoot your shot. Like,
right.
You never know. And I feel like that's a great anecdote for those who ever want to really root for themselves in those scenarios. So.
And as a multi-hyphenate, you can feel like you're like, if somebody knows me as this artist, like they're not going to take me seriously in this. And I'm like, that's fine. They'll take you seriously as soon as they like need that, you know what I mean? Or like you don't need that in order for you to take yourself seriously and at least put yourself out there.
I know, you never knew you were out here filming a horror film. You're like, actually, I got this song.
Let me just slide this.
That's amazing, though.
Wow,
seriously,
awesome.
congrats. That's
Congratulations on your first lead role, but not your last.
Never that.
Is there a genre that you're looking forward to exploring in the future?
Yes, I would love to be able to do like some sort of musical biopic.
Oh,
I would love to be able to do that.
You know, we did a whole episode on musical biopics.
You did?
We love
I need to
musical
check out that.
biopics.
I haven't seen
like
that
that's
podcast.
probably our favorite genre of film.
Yeah,
like probably
right.
It's up there.
And I'm gonna put it out there, but like Billie Holiday. I would love to be. I don't know if they already have.
So they did.
I remember they did.
They did. No, they did a few, but they did. You can still do it differently.
True.
So they did one with Andre Day.
Okay.
A series on.
It was a series though, right?
Mhm.
Was it called Billy?
I'm not sure, and I don't want to say the wrong title,
I want to
but
say
I
it's
remember.
the United States versus Billie Holiday.
Yeah, something like that.
You're
Yes.
so right. You're
Yeah.
so right.
So they did a series, and then they, of course, Diana Ross portrayed her.
Right.
But I don't.
Oh, you're talking
think-
about Lady Sings the Blues.
Yes.
Right.
That
So
was- yeah.
I don't know if they've specifically had a musical biopic. So
Anything.
Don't-
Or Tina Turner. Anything. Just give me.
Listen.
something.
Iconic ladies, and I think you can do it.
Look.
You can do
Fingers
it.
crossed. Putting
Because-
it out there.
because you have the vocal range too.
Girl, so.
you got the skills.
Speaking of vocal range, let's get into Cycle.
Okay, let's get into the music.
Yes, you just dropped your EP, Cycles. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes,
The sound of
the
the clap
studio
sound
loves it. The studio loves it. No, so congratulations, and we wanna get into it. It's been on repeat for us.
Oh.
We have some questions we want to ask you.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. The title Cycles.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that. Why did you decide to title it?
Cycles.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually had a lot of different ideas for the title. I feel like coming up with titles for songs and stuff like that is like one of my favorite parts about it all, because it's like choosing the title of like a book, or like being able to see all of the discography, like all of the music all together, and then being able to see like what that cover page looks like. So Cycles is the title track of the final song, Cycles, and
Right.
I feel like it just encapsulated, I feel like, the overall theme of or like takeaway from every single one of the songs, but especially that last track. And it's, it kind of encompasses like this rebirth, this evolution, this ability to move forward and release control in a certain way. I feel like life has been feeling, as I'm getting older as an adult, like very cyclical in a lot of the ways that I learn the lessons that I have to learn. And I just feel like it's a really great reminder or metaphor to be able to let go of control and know that everything that is supposed to be mine will come back,
Yeah. I thought the placement was interesting, right? Because it's the last song on the EP, but if you're listening to it on repeat, it does become a cycle. I don't know if that was intentional, but I picked up on that.
Thank you for picking up on it.
I thought that was really clever.
Thank you.
Just the placement is really great.
No, love that.
It feels like an epilogue in a lot of ways, that last song, to like the rest of the journey of the EP.
Yeah.
Oh my
For
God.
sure.
Love context.
We
love
love
creative
it.
context. So before we get into all the tracks that we love, we'd love to have you just describe in your own words your sound.
Okay, so I feel like my sound is nostalgic R&B soul.
I definitely hear that.
Hear that,
Yeah.
right? So like I feel like I grew up like being so obsessed with like 90s, 2000s R&B and
It's
pop.
the best.
It's
You cannot argue. It's literally the best era.
And it's sick that there's so few clubs in New York that play that type of music. Like, stop playing. Like, look, I love a little sometimes. Like, my God. Like,
Oh my
sometimes I
God,
just want to
yeah.
get down to my boo. Like,
Sometimes I just want to hear
Yeah.
lyrics.
like just,
a little bit of vocals,
Yeah.
a little run.
like,
here
baby,
and
are you down, 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 down?
Yes. Come on now.
You
Come
know?
on.
But yeah, I would say like 2000s pop, R&B, soul kind of vibe. I don't know. Yeah, I'm not married to any specific genre, but I am an R&B lover through and
Yes.
through.
There's definitely a through line. You give us vocals, you give us harmonies,
You know.
give us all the
Wordplay.
things.
Wordplay.
Mm-hmm.
So I specifically wanted to talk about Pressure.
Okay.
And I felt like Yodit and I, that song resonated with us. Obviously, you talk about pressures that are internal, externally impacting life. But the line that I wanted to highlight is when you say East African jeans means pressure on the pedal.
Absolutely.
Whew,
Yeah.
I felt
Talk
that
about
one.
it.
Let's unpack.
I was like, girl,
No, truly.
like, you're talking about my life.
right.
I wanted you to elaborate more on that.
No, 100%. That's exactly that's why I called the song Pressure, and it had a bunch of different names. I had the first name that I had, or like for like a year almost, it was like RPP, because I was like, in the chorus it's like rum pum pum, so I was like, and then I was like, okay, I'm definitely doing the absolute least. So I was like, let me just like really like unpack what that means. And I feel like in a lot of ways, Pressure is my battle song. It's like my battle cry, and like continuing to like break down these different misconceptions, these boundaries in the entertainment industry. So that line, I feel like, was a shout out to my own culture and the nuance that I hold within myself and my identity. I feel like I spent so much of my life thinking that my worth came from my ability to assimilate to other people or simplify myself in order to be like understood and then therefore loved. And so as I got older, I just realized what that is doing myself such a disservice, and so many parts of myself at any given moment. And I feel like there's so much agency that I reclaim in my own music, and that's kind of like why I do it. And I mean, there's also a line in it where it's like sígueme et allons-y, which is like French and Spanish, which are two languages that I also know how to speak. And I was just like, I was just kind of challenging myself to put more parts of myself and keep digging deeper in a different way than like my older music, which had its own purpose in its own way. And it felt very healing for me to be able to write a song for myself and for people like me, like repping my last name, you know what I mean?
Which I love the wordplay.
We love.
Come on, Millions in the making.
Come on, family affair, honey. We know it. So
I mean, you're destined for greatness.
Thank you.
Seriously.
No pressure.
With that name,
pressure.
With that name, like,
unintended.
come on. Oh, no. I just got that.
Got it. Come on, Yodit.
Noted. Come on, Yodit. Noted. But I mean, that's what listeners want, right? Authenticity. We hear so much music, so many artists that are out there today, but what makes you, and I'm not just specifically talking about you, but like you as in the artist,
right,
stand out. And I feel like being yourself is always going to be well received.
It's the only way to be received in an authentic way and in a sustainable way. Like, I feel like that's so interesting that with music, like when you release it, you're so like beholden to these analytics of like what people like. And I feel like that's what got a little bit confusing to try to create more music whilst promoting my music on TikTok, because there's this such analytical way of being able to be like, this is what people want.
Strategy.
This is what people want. And it was really hard for me to be able to create from that space. So I had to take some time away to be like, what is it that I want to say? Like, what do I need to say? And it ended up being very different from the type of music that I was making before, or at least I felt like it was. I don't know if as a listener, you interpret it, you know, you see the parallels more easier, but
right.
I think that you're spot on, where authenticity at the end of the day is the only thing that is going to be able to fulfill you when you see this work 60 years later.
Right.
Like, I want to look back and be like, I know exactly where I was and what I was experiencing when I wrote this song. Even if nobody else cares to hear it, like, it's going to mean something to me.
It's like the same effect when you journal, right? And you look back years later, you're like, oh, I'm taking myself back to that place.
Yes.
And then on top of that, it's like, if you are singing from an authentic place, you're talking about your life, what you've been through, you never know who's listening on the other end.
Yeah.
And you don't know who you're going to impact or relate to.
Yeah.
But it's just worth a shot, just being yourself. So
100%.
Clearly it paid off, because the project is giving.
Oh, thank you.
And you're telling stories and you're giving us versatility.
We have to.
And insight about you.
And insight about who you are, or who we would imagine you are as an artist, but also as a human.
Right.
So speaking of versatility, let's talk a little bit about Dare.
Okay.
That is my jam. That has been on repeat, because it's definitely a vibe sonically. Makes you want to dance, make you feel a little good about yourself.
A little smoky dance floor.
Yes, period. And we love that energy that you channel. And then when you listen to the lyrics a little bit more deeply, you make it clear to this man that you are the prize.
Let him know.
You are that girl. And we love an anthem like that. So let's talk a little bit about that and what the inspiration was behind that.
You know, I feel like there are a lot of different parts of me, like, yes, I'm a Pisces, but deep down, my moon sign, I'm a Scorpio. So I am very intense in a lot of ways. And I just feel like I spent so much of my life, again, like, trying to prove to people why I am worth something, even before they even gave me any of that impression. And I just felt like there is so much about meeting somebody who matches your energy in a way. And I just feel like for very powerful women, a lot, you feel like in the dating scene, you have to dim your light slightly to be able to like allow other people to feel comfortable to brighten their own. And that is such a dangerous territory to be in, especially in a heterosexual relationship. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay. So I feel like when I met my partner now, it was somebody who like, who was drawn to the light that I had to offer.
We love
rather
that.
than, you know what I mean, in a different way, and match it in his own right.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like I loved, you know what it reminds me of, you know, Party Girl by Victoria Monet?
Yes.
Where it's like the snake dance.
Yeah.
Like that
Yes.
whole, that's like my version, but
Yes.
like a little bit more grounded in like Afro beat, like something a
Yeah.
little bit more, you know.
I love that. I love that. That's one of my favorite songs.
So good.
Yes,
Like,
it
yeah.
is.
I love that. No, I love that. And I love that you tap into that perspective because I feel like a lot of people recognize that, but it's so interesting when you just framed it the way you have, like being in those dynamics and, you know, having to adjust your light. And I'm glad that you no longer have to do that
No.
because we
Yeah.
love reciprocity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
We love that. We
And-
love that.
And it's a partnership. Hello, balance.
Right.
Yes.
And
So-
the fact that like in order of the EP, it comes after, I think, Waiting or something. So it feels like a different relationship than Irrational and Waiting are talking about. Like that one is like the end of a dead relationship and it's finding something new and still leaning into it instead of coming at it from a place of like injury of like,
Yeah.
I'm not, you know, going, if I see something different or fresh, I'm going to go towards it. I'm not going to be, you know, or let myself be held by the past trauma.
yeah.
And Irrational is so like you feel the anxiety, like
Yeah,
the stress
yeah.
of, you know,
It's a
the
little triggering.
tail end of a relationship that needs to end, right? I you just feel the energy of it. It's really, unfortunately, relatable.
Yeah.
you know?
That one goes out to my demons. That goes out to my demons.
No,
Shout
but
out.
I think we all need a song like that to really keep us in check. Like,
Right.
You know, yes, these things are valid and these
Right.
things are real. But you know, and I feel like it's like you said, Ariam, like it feels very real, and I'm glad it's on the on the
Yeah.
EP because we see all types of love depicted on
Right.
the EP, especially in the song "Baby." Now, we love this song in particular because we love to talk about a healthy, stable kind of love.
Yes.
We love it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about it. Is there a special someone that the song is inspired by?
Yes, of course. It was honestly, it was like a birthday present to my partner, my boyfriend of like almost 5 years now.
Aw.
So literally we started dating like 4 months before the pandemic started.
Wow.
And it was something like we've been through so many ups and downs and we've lived together and we've like, you know, I feel like we've grown so much together and it's so funny because I never ever thought of releasing it. I literally, I didn't even like think about releasing it until I was like, you know what, like I'm making this EP. Let me just try a bunch of songs and see. And I feel like what I loved about it, I wanted it to be inspired by like, you know, those old timey like Stevie Wonder like love songs like that, those like gooey, you know, like I feel like those ones that are like very repetitive but they mean something different every time you say the same word and
Right.
like I feel like I wanted to explore that kind of version of myself and I didn't even like really promote it like that because I was like, you know, people are gonna be like, okay, corny ass, like get out of here, you know.
No,
But we
love
kind of
it.
need that,
We
right?
need
Because
it.
obviously, you know, R&B, you can really talk about anything, but at the core, it's love,
It is.
right? And people talk about heartbreak, you know, people talk about falling in love, falling out of love. But sometimes there's something so special about just experience healthy happiness, joy in love.
Yes.
I think it's something that you can't take for granted because at the end of the day, as humans, that's all we really want, right?
Right. and again, it's evidence in a certain way of the way that relationship has helped me grow, you know, and to be able to put that into my own words of what that feels like for me, I feel like is very grounding, even for me to be able to see it in a third perspective, you know what I mean? That is the poem that goes along with the relationship that I have, and that's really special for me, and it's a special reminder as well whenever I end up getting in my head about something, you know what I mean? So
That is so sweet.
Very sweet.
lover girls, stand up.
Yes, and he's a very, very lucky man.
Oh,
Very. That
True.
part.
Let him know. No,
let her know.
So what was the song that was most meaningful to you? Was it Baby, or do you have another?
Cycles is probably the most special song to me, just because I've had that hook for a very, very long time. Like, pull up with some new kicks. Once you show me where the booth is, it's on site. Like, I just feel like it was a hook that I've always had, and I was like, I don't know what the perfect song for this hook to be in. And I mean, I have so many random lyrics that are just like floating around my notes app, my phone, on the wall that I scratch. And I'm just kidding. But like, yeah, I just feel like it encompasses a lot of my ethos as a person and the individual that I've become. In a lot of ways, it feels like the beginning of a new cycle and the end of an old one. I feel like what I love about a circle and like cycles as a metaphor is that you never know where it starts and where it ends, right? It just keeps going. And I just feel like I'm stepping into a new era as I am growing. I'm now 26, freshly 26.
Happy birthday or happy belated.
Happy belated to y'all.
Thank you.
I hate us. Pisces are just
Listen,
like,
we're bringing it back.
like
to
the
us.
Aries are like, are you
Count how
done?
many times we said Pisces in this episode.
Yes.
Literally.
Yes.
Do it.
Take a shot every
Do
time
it.
we say Pisces.
Like literally, we black out. Like, sorry. Pisces. That's 3, babe. And then, yeah, so I just feel like I'm stepping into this new era. I feel like for the first time, I am trying to let go of my own need for validation as a multi-hyphenate artist and being like, you know what? I trust my instincts because they've gotten me this far. And not my instincts in this. I trust my instincts as an artist, and therefore, I need to be brave and explore these different spaces. And like in it, there's a lyric that's like, could I find the answer out of Malibu drinking? And I'm considering and probably moving to LA in August.
Okay.
And at least I want to, because I feel like I've grown so much in New York and I've done so much.
Because you've been here since you were 18?
Yeah, pretty much. And then I went to LA in January for the Grammy event, and I was like, wait a damn minute.
Yeah.
Like, I don't like be here.
I could get used to this.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
Yes.
so it just feels like I'm just so glad it's my first like full project, and it just feels like it really encapsulates like the moment in my life that I'm in, and I use it whenever I'm like feeling like insecure about these new like spaces that I'm going to be stepping into. I'm glad that I have like this gift to myself and other people to remind that like, look, whatever it is, whatever's yours, it's going to be yours. So
Ooh.
That's beautiful.
Wow.
guys,
All these gems you've been dropping today.
look, I blacked that. I don't remember anything I just said, but
Don't worry, you'll
It's
rewatch it on
recorded.
the episode. We're on camera.
that's what matters.
You can hear it or see it.
Exactly.
So you mentioned LA, but what is also next for Beth?
Oh my gosh. So I have an indie horror movie that I filmed almost 3 years ago.
Not you being Thanos and collecting
You know,
all these thrillers.
yeah, well, everybody decided to go on strike, so which we had to do. And
Yes.
oh my gosh, like, look, I can say all of this, you know, like, all of these, I can drop all of these lessons and stuff, but it has been hard. It has been hard, like the mental, like, strength and tenacity that I have needed to go through in this industry to know like really the amount of no's that you get like to your face, and the thing is the no's get harder the closer you get. That's the thing.
What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I just feel like, so when I used to send tapes and I didn't really have any sort of and I didn't have like a lot of credits or whatever, they would I'd send them out into the ether and they wouldn't respond. But then as I start getting these callbacks and I get closer and closer to a lot of these projects, I'm like 4th audition, 5th audition. I start to imagine what would happen to me if I get this role. Being able to get that far doing chemistry and stuff like that and then not getting it is like the hardest things ever, because firstly you're reliant on it to be able to like sustain yourself, but also on top of that you can't help but imagine what you can do with that role, fall in love with that role, and you know, fall in love with what that role could do for you in a lot of ways.
Wow. So how do you navigate that? Like, I know you said that they get more and more challenging, but you're obviously still here and you're still pushing and you're still, you know, it hasn't hindered your passion. So how do you keep going?
You get really good at failing. Like, you get really comfortable at failing and try your best. Give yourself grace to feel and like mourn whatever missed opportunity it was, and then milk it for the lesson that you learned about yourself and something that you can control. And then you find an outlet. You find a way to take your agency back. Because I feel like in a lot of acting, and that's why I'm so grateful for having music and having made music before I ever did acting. And I have an outlet that will always be mine, that nobody can take that away. So I feel like practicing agency and your agency over your own creativity, whether that's writing, whether that's drawing, whatever that is, I feel like that is so important. And also knowing that, like, you know, what's for you won't pass you by. It won't. And if you got this close, that is as far as you were supposed to get. And there's a lesson that you can take from that, which is, wow, I'm so much better than I was 2-3 years ago, you know? And I'm just hoping that, you know, I can refine that momentum in a different way and trust that that momentum comes from who I am as a person rather than just luck. And I feel like I have to remind myself that. Otherwise, it gets very difficult to keep going.
Wow. You keep dropping all these gems and, you know, you are still evolving as an artist. So it's really beautiful to see. And thank you so much for just being so generous with your time and your energy and sharing all of this with us and with our listeners.
I know. Thank you guys for having me and giving me this platform to be able to, you know, speak to all parts of myself. I feel like that means a lot.
I know. We can't wait to see all of the amazing things that you continue to do. I mean, the things you've already done so far are already so amazing, but we're excited to see what's in store in the future.
Yes, definitely look out for Trim Season coming out, horror movie.
Yes.
This summer, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so keep an eye out.
Okay. And where can people keep up with you? Like, drop your social media, all of that.
Y'all can find me on Instagram or TikTok at Beth Million. And then you can find my music on any streaming service, Spotify, Apple Music, all that good stuff at Beth Million. I also have a bunch of music videos on my YouTube channel, also Beth Million. And if you see my 16-year-old cover of Drake, Marvin's Room, no, you didn't.
But girl, everyone had a cover.
Look.
Everyone did a cover of
I did a
Room.
mashup of Marvin's Room and Shot for Me. I don't know who hurt me. But
Oh my God.
Girl,
you know you're about to get some views.
Like, whoa.
You just plugged yourself.
Like, look, sweet girl, 16 years old.
But yes, Beth, thank you so much for joining us on deuxsol Radio. Guys, if you like what you heard, you can keep up with us on our socials at DEUXSOL. That's at deuxsol. You can also watch us on YouTube, and you can listen to us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music. If you can hear it,
We'll be on it.
And until next time, guys,
Peace.